Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us today on ReachIvy's webinar on getting your essay right. Now, to move forward, I'm going to quickly switch to the presentation mode and take you through a few slides that will help you in getting your essays right for your college application. So yeah, getting your essays right. Before we start, a little introduction about myself. I'm Shyam Gursahani, a senior counselor at ReachIvy, and I will be leading this session. I am the founder and strategy head at Albatross Digital and a travel and tech enthusiast. My past experience involves working at international companies such as Geometry Global and Group Drop. The next, I want to talk about ReachIvy, who's basically conducting this webinar today. ReachIvy is a study abroad and career consultancy that helps students reach Ivy League schools. So if you're looking to reach an Ivy League school, this is the best place to start. The services include resume editing, college selection, interview preparation, essay editing, and of course, your LinkedIn review. An entire package to make sure that your college application is how it should be. Our session today will cover a broad overview of specifics you need to get in place to succeed with your essays. At the end of the session, we will open the floor for questions. So if you have any doubts, make a note of them now, and we will try to address them at the end of the call. So without further ado, let's go into the next few slides and try and decode the secrets to getting your essays right. Getting your essay right is more than simply answering the question. It's about differentiating yourself from the rest of the world applying for your seat at the table. Even people from marketing backgrounds like me often find it hard to market themselves in an application. So the natural question then becomes, where do you start? The first thing that we recommend is to know your profile. Start with the stories. Whatever story you have from whatever walk of life, professional, personal, start jotting them down. Start making an endless list of all the stories that you can remember. It's fine if it was way back in school, and it's good if it was, very recent in a professional setting. And then start segregating them. When you're segregating these stories, segregate them into three parts. Now, the first part, obviously, is the must-haves. So when you start writing these stories, you'll start realizing which stories make you sound like the hero, and they go into the must-have section. The good to have are those stories that are then used in an application where there are too many questions and you have to answer them. To fill that, you have the good to have stories. And the third part is the have-nots. Now, when you're writing down your story or your list of stories, you are going to come across a lot of stories that you yourself will realize that shouldn't be a part of your profile. So, make sure that you put them in the have-not sections. The next part is, of course, the distribution plan. Now, every school has a different application process, and they vary. The questions in the form vary from school to school. The number of essays the school asks vary. The types of recommenders. So some schools require only supervisor recommendation. Some schools specifically ask for a peer recommendation. So make sure you make a note of these things. The last thing, obviously, is the deadlines and the number of deadlines. Do you want to apply in round 1? Do you want to apply in round 2? And so on and so forth. Now, all of these different formats work towards achieving one goal. Every school, whether through a single essay like HBS or through multiple essays like INSEAD, wants to understand what sets you apart. So what needs to be done then? Select the stories that can be told from different parts of your profile. Example, certain stories can be left to the recommenders and don't need to be covered in your application. By doing this, we now have the hero stories that will fill out your essays. Use these stories to set yourself apart. Now, finally, let's talk about the essays themselves. So now we have all the stories, we've collected all the stories, we've put them in different buckets. And remember, these are your best stories. personal and professional. And these are the stories that are going to set you apart. The first point that we recommend is to pick a theme. Now, when we say pick a theme, we say pick a theme for your entire profile. Are you a winner? Are you a fighter? Creating a theme often sets a tone for the content to follow, hooking the reader into your story right from the start. Now, you have to look at your entire application as one big narrative, right? Right from your CV to your essays to your recommendations, need to talk about you and follow that one big narrative. So, picking a theme becomes very, very important. You need to know how you're trying to position yourself to set yourself apart from the rest of the people, rest of the thousands of people who are applying for the same seat at the table. The next thing, and this one is probably my favorite, is so what? This is a harsh test on your own achievements, but it's important to put everything you write through a so what test. Yes, we did mention that you need to segregate your stories and you need to put them in different buckets. But even after you've done that, when you're finally writing your essays and you've created your theme, you need to put each and every story through a so what test. For example, a student once wrote, "Stuck in the Mumbai rains, I walked 12 kilometers to get home." Now, this is commendable, isn't it? But was he the only one who did that on that day? The entire city did that, and some probably walked a whole lot more. So this fails the so what test. This was just one example and probably won't be a part of your essay, but it's very, very important to put every, and I mean each and every story through the so what test. The next thing that people often miss out or somehow manage to miss while answering their questions is reading the question. Now, I know this sounds very, very common, but we often create template essays and try to force fit those in every application that we work on. And I know it's a very human tendency to do that, but schools know that and can easily differentiate a generic essay from the one that you've created specially for them. Imagine the school to be someone you want to woo. You want to woo them with your profile, but at the same time, you also want to let them know that you, like their school, is a perfect fit for you. Like your goals can only be achieved if and only if you're part of that school. So the questions are designed to make you answer. The questions are designed specifically to make you write basis the prompt that has been given to you. So read the question clearly and answer only the questions asked. The next thing at this point, and I think over the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of students really, really struggle with this aspect, is goals. Is my goal realistic? Is my goal too ambitious? I honestly don't know what goal I should be following. Now, two words can define your goal, and those are the two words you need to live by. Select ambitious but realistic goals. Now, what do we mean by ambitious but realistic? Right? You need to pick goals that show you as someone having a decent amount of ambition when applying to a B school. However, if you're a finance guy and suddenly after B school you wanted to get into marketing, that is a non-realistic goal. So make sure your goals are realistic too. Unless restrictive, always state the market opportunity and your interest in these goals. Schools want to know that you're moving towards something that is tangible, but at the same time worthy of their school. Now, when I say worthy of their school, what I mean is if you just want to go into a paper pushing job right after the MBA that is not taking you somewhere else, you don't become a part of their successful alumni, which basically removes you out of their list of consideration right away. The next point that I'd like to discuss here are optional essays. There are generally two types of optional questions. The first one, they ask for extenuating circumstances. Now, unless you have, a gap year that you want explained, or bad academic grades, or an unusual choice of recommenders, or a history with the law, and when I say history with the law, I mean negative kind, and you want to highlight those things in your application, then you must, and I say must, write this essay. But if you don't have any of those, or if your gap year was 8 years ago and after that you've had 8 years of continuous work experience, then that's probably something you don't want to highlight. Try and keep everything that you highlight to a relevance of about 3 to 5 years from the time you're applying to the college. The second type of optional question is that they simply ask for additional information. Now, a lot of students are often asked that should we do this question? And I say yes, you must. Never leave an opportunity to tell them something more about yourself. And always use every, and I mean every inch of that application to sell yourself, sell your profile, sell your goals, sell your ambitions. Now, in an optional essay such as this, where they're simply asking for additional information, you can always turn around and talk about a couple of other stories, the good to have stories that you didn't get a chance to mention earlier in the application. Or you could simply tell them about your strengths and how those strengths can contribute to that college. There are lots of ways in which you can answer this question, but you must do it. Never leave that opportunity away. The last point that I'd like to talk about in the types of essays are creative essays. Now, several times you get a question in an application that says you have two choices to answer this question. One is in a 250 or a 500 word limit essay, and they give you an alternative that you can be creative about this essay and answer it in a video format or answer it in a presentation or a PDF. Always pick the creative choice. Creative essays are a great way to say things with a creative flair, making them a lot easier to stand out. If given a choice, always pick the creative essay over a written one. Now, in closing, I'd like to just highlight a few points that we've already discussed. First and foremost, remember, an essay is a medium for the school to get to know you. And when we say that with all seriousness. You must make sure that the application covers all parts of you. It follows a theme to describe who you are and basically highlights what makes you unique. Most important, and I think a lot of people tend to cover this, is you need to tell them your motivations. And I think this comes through in your goals as well. But if there is a question on motivations, make sure you make it very clear on what drives you, because they want to know that. They want a certain kind of people to be a part of their cohort. They want a certain kind of people to be a part of their alumni. And they need to know that you fit that kind. And yeah, use it to your advantage. Use all the points that we mentioned in this webinar to your advantage, and you will get your essays right 99% of the times. So that brings us to the end of the session. And now I'm going to open the floors for any questions that you may have. Okay, since we have no questions, I am going to end this webinar. And please, if you have any more doubts, any more concerns, anything that you want to clarify, you can simply write to help@reachivy.com. And I'm sure someone from the team will make it a point to get back to you. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.